Hello class, today we are continuing to learn how to solve multi-step equations. So, how do I solve equations is the essential question. Learning intention. I'm learning to solve equations. So you've got 3 warm-up questions. Can you do those on your own? Pause the video and see. Well, I hope you tried. Looking at the first one, we've got 2/3 of x. How do we get rid of that 2/3? Well, we know we don't divide by fractions, but we do multiply by the reciprocal. So if you're looking at the other side, I've got x times 3 divided by 2. If I want to simplify before I multiply, I can say, well, 4 goes in, or 2 goes into 8 4 times. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I've simplified there. And I can now say that x is equal to 4 times 3, which is 12. If you're still having problems with that thought process, please back the video up and watch it again. Okay, for the next one, we always draw the line through our equal sign so we can keep our sides straight. We can make sure you keep the column straight. I've taken 2x, I've multiplied by 2, and then I subtracted 7. The last thing I did was to subtract 7, so I've got to undo that first. So I'll add 7 to both sides. 15 plus 7 is 22, and that is equal to 2x. Okay, I've multiplied by 2. To undo that, I divide both sides by 2. And x is equal to 11. Okay, as I'm looking at the next one, what do I do first? It's multiplication, but I've got parentheses. What do I need to do first? Well, I do need to multiply everything in parentheses by the number outside. What does that look like? Negative 2 times 3x is negative 6x. Negative 2 times positive 2 is negative 4, or minus 4, is equal to 20. It doesn't matter if that number is at the front or after the parentheses. It means the same thing. You have to distribute. Now it's time to solve. So let's draw our line. I've taken some number. I've multiplied by negative 6, and then I subtracted 4. The last thing I did was to subtract 4. How do I undo that? Add 4 to both sides is correct. Okay, I've canceled this out. I've got negative 6. X is equal to 24. I multiplied by negative 6, so I need to divide by negative 6. So x is equal to 24 divided by negative 6 would give me negative 4, and I'm done. So as you're looking at the next problem, I want you to think, what is your first step in solving this problem? We're looking at the problem here. What would be your first step? We're going to write it out so you can remember. If you said I'm going to distribute the negative 3, you would be correct. What does that look like? Well, I'm going to multiply everything inside the parentheses by -3. -3 times 2x is -6x. -3 times +5 is -15, and that is equal to -45. Okay, what's our next step in solving this equation? I've taken -6, taken x multiplied by -6, and then subtracted 15. How do I undo that? You're going to add 15 to both sides. Okay, let's do that step now. Okay, this is canceled out. -45 plus 15. They're opposite signs, so I subtract. 45 minus 15 is 30. Now, which is my bigger? Well, it's a -45, so this will be a -30. What is my last step to solving? I'm going to divide both sides by -6. Okay, so let's divide both sides by -6. -6 divided by -6 is 1, so I've canceled it out. X is equal to -30 divided by -6 is 5. Okay, it says to check our answer here, so what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to rewrite this problem that I started with. Now, how do I check? I substitute my x value back in. So this becomes, in parentheses, 2 times 5 plus 5 times -3. Two times 5 is 10. 10 plus 5 is 15. (15) times -3 is -45. That is equal to -45. I have checked my answer and it is correct. Okay, now this part is where we have to start looking and thinking. To be able to solve equations, you have to simplify both sides of the equal sign. If they're not simplified, then you need to do that first before you can start adding and subtracting to get your variable isolated. So, if I'm looking at the first one, I've got two sets of parentheses. I've got to distribute on both sides to make it simplified. Okay, 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 2 is 8. The greatest mistake I see is where they will only multiply the 4 by that first term, but do not multiply by the second. So please don't do that. Is equal to 2 times 3 is 2 times 3x is 6x, plus 2 times 5 is 10. Now I'm ready to start solving. I've got to get my variables to the same side. So I look and I say, which is smaller, 4x or 6x? Well, 4x is, so I will subtract 4x from both sides. I've eliminated it from this side. I'm left with 8. 8 is equal to 6x minus 4x is 2x plus 10. What is my next step? Well, I've multiplied by 2 and then added 10, so I need to undo that added 10. So I will subtract 10 from both sides. I have eliminated the 10. 8 minus 10. Think of our number line. I'm at 8. I go clear down to 10 spots, and that gives me a -2. Or, if they're opposite signs, find their difference. 10 minus 8 is 2. Keep the sign of the larger one, which is -10. So it's -2. -2 is equal to 2x. Divide by -2. And x is equal to -1. Did I do it correctly? Do I need to check? Yeah, probably ought to. So let's check. So I'm going to go 4 times -1 plus 2. Is that equal to 2 times 3 times -1 plus 5? Order of operations says I do what first? Parentheses. 4 times -1 plus 2 is 1. Is that equal to 2 times 3 times -1 is -3 plus 5. Is 4 equal to 2 times -3 plus 5 is 2. 4 is equal to 4. I am correct. Okay, now this is another common mistake I see students make. They do not simplify both sides. If they don't simplify both sides, then they do not get the correct answer because they're trying to add 8 in here and here and there, and it just doesn't work. So, always check to make sure both sides are simplified. In this case, I've got a 6n and a -8n, and I've got a +8 and a +15. 4n minus 1 is equal to, okay, 6n minus 8n, they're opposite signs, find their difference. 8 minus 6 is 2. Keep the sign of the larger one, which is negative. 8 plus 15 plus 23. Any questions? Now, I've simplified both sides. I'm ready to finish this up. Which is smaller, 4n or -2n? Well, -2n is smaller, so I'll add 2n to both sides. Make sure you always keep those columns straight. I've eliminated it on this side. 4n plus 2n is 6n. Minus 1 is equal to 23. Let's go again. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. I've eliminated it here. 6n is equal to 24. Last step is to divide. And n is equal to 4. Have I done it correctly? Okay, there's several different ways you can do. You can put n in here all 3 places and then go ahead and solve. Or you can use your simplified version, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, but I know that n is 4. 4 times 4 minus 1. Is that equal to negative 2 times 4 plus 23? 4 times 4 is 16 minus 1. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8 plus 23. 16 minus 1 is 15. Is that equal to 23 minus 8, or negative 8 plus 23, which is also 15? I have checked, and I know that I have the correct answer. I know I'm successful when I can solve any equation. So these are solving multi-step equations.